Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the Once More for Safety show. My name is Matthew. Joining me is a very, very tired director, Joshua.
There was a pause between the countdown, and I was like, "Oh shit, is he waiting for me to talk?" I was like, "I fucked up. Damn it." Yeah.
No. I will handle the duties here because I think you're going to be talking a lot on this one since our topic today is so fresh in your mind because you literally just did it. What is our topic today?
It's 2 weeks old, really. I barely remember anything. We're talking about the first night of the Pigface sequel, which is cool. That's what we're going to chat about. We're just going to chat about how it went. So, the highs and the lows, and the lows, and the lows. So,
including the low temperatures.
Yeah, and the high winds.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think will be cool is we can kind of segue and parlay this into a bigger discussion regarding just first days of shooting in general.
Yeah.
Any movie. And for some of the listeners out there, Outpost Unknown, you can check out our YouTube channel. I've got a bunch of videos that are live right now of the making of Pigface, so you can go and watch a video literally about the first night. It's over an hour long.
Yeah.
If that gives you any hint as to the craziness that occurred that night. But we can talk about just, how you feel emotionally, what happens on the first day of set. You're very excited, and then like you said, the highs and lows of like the roller coaster of what you go through when you on the first day of making a movie.
Right.
So Pigface, we're doing Pigface 2, Sloppy Seconds. Before we talk about your first night of filming this, take me back to your first night of the first Pigface, because you pretty much did that mostly all yourself. So I'm definitely going to be interested to hear how you compare the first sort of night of filmmaking and the first Pigface compared to this when you had sort of I assume a larger crew, more people there to help you. So take me back to that first day of filming the original Pigface.
Yeah, I mean, that was 2 years ago and change. We shot that in 2020, and it was even more kind of nerve-wracking because we shot it in the middle of the pandemic, and there were all these kind of like rules, but we put on ourselves, but like these rules in place that we had to follow to keep everybody safe. So that was just kind of nerve-wracking out of the gate. But I always like to start with whenever we start one of these films, I always like to start with the a first night kill, just to get one out of the way, just to see how effects are gonna go. It was the only night shoot of Pigface. It was the shoot that turned that movie into a day shoot because we realized that we just did not have the lights to light this thing. And after that first night, we were like, all right, Pigface is now a daytime movie. So we worked with Matthew Kisher, who's really great. We worked with Julia Farrell, who's awesome. Yep. Matthew Kisher, we had a different guy lined up to be in the opening of that film, and he bombed out on the day of. He was like, I'm not coming. I'm busy. And we were like, wow. It was like 2 hours from getting ready to go. And somebody sent a message out to Matt, because apparently if you just message him, he'll just show up. And he lives in Omaha. So he drove down from Omaha just last minute and was like, okay, what am I doing? I'm in this now. And he's super cool. He was down with everything. He had no idea what he was walking into. He didn't know the name of the movie. He didn't know what we were doing that night. And he got there and it was just like, hey, we're going to kill you and make you all bloody. And he's like, awesome. That sounds great. Where do I stand? Everybody had a really great attitudes. You know what I mean? You never know what you're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you cast people, and then you tell like you know at the first read through you tell them, oh, you're gonna get all bloody, and they're all excited, and then they show up, and you're like, all right, you're gonna get all bloody, and they're like, okay, well, how bloody though? Like, how bloody do you think I might get? And you're like, you're gonna get real bloody. It's gonna get really bad, and you just hope they don't quit. But yeah, that
Julie,
first. Go
yeah,
ahead.
Julia's an old hand at that.
Yeah.
Julia's been doused in blood. I don't know how many times on it, but I'm actually really curious about. So, again, you were basically filming Pigface on your own. You did most of that whole shoot on your own. You wake up that morning, right? And we had actually had some conversations beforehand. I remember we had a long conversation at UNL. You were sort of talking to me about Pigface and
Oh yeah.
asking whether during the height of COVID
Yeah.
should I do this, and I was like I kind of canceled my movie. I was like pushing it off
Yep.
because the height of COVID. Tell me how when you woke up that morning, what were your like feelings? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you feeling overwhelmed that you were just like, how am I going to do this? Put me in your mind.
Um, I it's kind of a mix, you know. I'm always excited to make a movie. Like day one, you're like, I'm making a movie, and then you get out there, and you realize like you don't know what the fuck you're gonna do. You know what I mean? Like you don't know how the hell in this situation I was gonna make a movie kind of by myself. Luckily, on night one, for the first half of night one, I had Greg out there running camera, and I had somebody out there running sound. So on night one, I had a bigger crew than I had for the rest of the whole shoot. But I knew after that first night that from there on out, I was directing and running a camera and hoping somebody was going to show up to run sound so I didn't have to hold the camera in one hand and the boom in the other. And because I'm telling you right now, that deep into it, I would have. I had already dragged all these people through multiple read throughs in a night one and got everything just in place. And once I kind of kick, I just don't want to quit. Um, it was tough and it was nerve wracking. And I'm not a cinematographer at all. I'm not. You saw the movie. It doesn't look good. Um,
And people can watch it. It is on YouTube.
it's on
So if you go to
YouTube.
the Midnight Frights YouTube channel, and I'll link it here in the description, viewers, listeners can definitely go check out Pigface
Yeah,
and then follow along with the making of Pigface too.
and then send me bad, mean messages. It would be awesome. Um, but at the same time, Patrick saved that movie in a way because he cut it to the point where it was watchable, and he put that old, dirty, nasty, gross TCM filter over it, and all of a sudden everything looked like it was on purpose, and it wasn't. Um, it wasn't. But yeah, so night one for Pigface was a ton of fun. It didn't go as late as the first night of Pigface 2, but we also didn't have as much going on. It was, again, two actors, but it was an easier setup. And uh, um, yeah, it was just an easier setup for that first night. So
Yeah, and I remember, obviously the first night I was ever quote unquote on a film set would have been like 1999 when I was
yeah,
making a Ripper runs through it, and I remember just like you waking up that morning because I still had school on Friday, waking up at school, super excited, telling everybody, "Man, come over," because I had like a ton of people that claimed that they were going to show up,
right.
and you're super jazzed and enthused, and then I got to set, which was my friend's parents' house, and once it became clear that things were not going to go the way that I had initially anticipated,
Mm-hmm.
I remember being very sort of like crushed because I was like, how am I going to do this? I have
Yep.
no idea how to do this. Now, you obviously had gone through multiple movies beforehand, so you by that point you kind of knew how to deal in some cases with trouble. That first night when I was on a film set, I had no fucking clue what I was doing, and it was
Right.
basically you rely on all of the friends that are there and willing to pitch in and help, and you kind of like lean on them. They're the ones that sort of keep you up. They're the ones that kind of keep you going, because as directors, it can sort of feel really shitty when, because you want everything to go well. You've
Right.
planned all this stuff ahead of time. You've put in all this work. You think you've done everything exactly how it needs to be done, and then boom, all of this crazy shit happens, and you're just like, what do I do? I had to rewrite on the fly
Yep.
some of the stuff in that script. We had actors pitching in like, hey, I'll ad lib this, we'll do that. And then on the set of the Grand Horror, the first day of the Grand Horror, I had really prepared because I was like, well, I do not want to do what I did back in 1999. So we shot the Grand Horror in 2005, I think, and we had a clapboard, we had sound, we had everything like a professional thing, and then everything went out the window, and you're just like, oh, and then it becomes a grind, and then it's like a mental challenge to be able to get through it, because again, you don't want to let any of these people down. They're all here, they've
Right.
all traveled, they're all excited to be there, and it's like you have to act like you're excited and everything's going well while internalizing the fact that everything's fucking falling apart, and how am
Yep.
I going to fix this?
And I admit, like, I'm not very good at the acting like everything is okay. I am like a huge um like I'm my biggest enemy. Like I'll just call shit out. Like, hey, guess what? This is fucked. We're gonna have to fix it right now. And I'll just call it out, and actors will look at me like, "Oh no, like he doesn't know what he's doing." um, uh, but I'm not very good at hiding the fact that shit's gone wrong. And you know that. You've seen me. I look like a fucking deer in headlights when something's kind of going south, and I'm not quite sure at that moment how to fix it. Um,
Yeah, and you can see some of that in the behind the scenes making of Pigface too.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Um, so that first night of Pigface, you get on set, you're
yeah,
really excited, and you realize right away things are not going to plan. You don't have the lighting that you need.
yeah.
You had a whole idea of what this movie was going to be in your head on night one, and then you realize, holy fuck, I have to change everything. Like I can't do this the way I wanted to do it. How are you feeling at the end of the night? Are you going home like after you're like you say wrap, we're done? Are you going home just like, what did I get myself into? Or are you just like, fuck it, gotta fix it, I'll figure it out?
That's pretty much, this far into things. That's pretty much where I'm at this point. Uh, First of all, multiple people tried to talk me out of making this movie in 2020. They're like, "Look, there's a pandemic.
I
How
was
are you?"
probably one of them.
What's that?
I was probably one of them.
You were one of a few. And the two people that I normally, shoot movies with were even like, "Hey, like I love to do this, but I'm just not going to put myself out there." And you can't be mad at that. But I'm just a person that would, I'll run into the brick wall until I either pass out or the brick wall falls down. You know what I mean? Like I just don't
Yeah.
want to quit. And it had been a while since I had made a movie. It definitely been a while since I had made a feature film. And I had this all. I get too excited, and I just refuse to not do it when that happens. And then stuff doesn't go like you want it to because you just refuse to, um, you know, admit defeat. So, but yeah, I left night one. Things didn't go really that bad on night one of Pigface, except for realizing that everything's super fucking dark. Um, but once we got into the barn location, which is where most of it was shot, everything lit really well in there. I thought for somebody that doesn't know, again, a lot about lighting and camera work and shit like that, the opening of Pigface was watchable. Some people would say that was the best part of the movie. Um, so I didn't go home um, feeling defeated. Um, I did put out a post that pretty much said, kind of feeling like I'm alone on this island right now. Um, and that was just because that's kind of how it was. You're out on you're out on the island by yourself when you're making a movie with, yourself. So,
Would you say that you felt worse on subsequent days of Pigface filming when you didn't have that sort of safety net of other people sort of helping you out and you were pretty much on your own? Did you end some of those days thinking, "Oh my God, I'm just exhausted. I don't know if I can actually do this"?
um, no, so I didn't get like um super fancy with anything. Again, everything's shot really simple. I was burnt out by the end of every day, and tired. I never really reached out for help. And honestly, like I didn't feel like like without those people there, I didn't feel like I felt like I trusted myself a little more. Um, because I wasn't feeling like I was being like everything was being kind of questioned. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to shoot it like that? Um, and that's sometimes how it goes for me. Is I quit whenever people that are around me that are better at this than I am. I second guess myself all the time, and I'm always falling back on asking, "Hey, what do you think of this? And what do you, how should I do that?" Instead of just doing it the way I'm thinking I should do it. Um,
Okay, so you kind of found like your own voice in a way,
a
where it was
little,
like
yeah,
it's kind of like, well, you know, whether it's good or bad, these were my calls, and I tried to do this the way that I wanted it done, rather than, hey, what do you think? Well, I think we should do it this way. All right, let's do it that way then.
yeah. So I'm not saying though. With that being said, the help I have for this second one, shot one of Pigface 2 is better than all of the first Pigface. Like the crew and help and surrounded by like a team has already made this movie 1,000 times better. Um, and you can see that just in the stills and everything that Chance sends out after every night that we've shot. Um, he sends he sends stills out, and they're just better than that first pig face. And I think honestly, like the script that we have for this one is better also. To be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that what's sort of interesting to me about it is, at least from my perspective, not in terms of Pigface necessarily, but just films that I've done in the past, is I always had sort of DJ there from the very beginning, right? So my filmmaking career was always sort of benefited by the fact that I had a guy who was like an expert in all, tech stuff. He knew
right?
everything about cameras. He knew everything about audio recording. He knew everything about everything. I mean, you've met DJ. He's just got a
Yeah,
brain that he can look at something once and be like, I know exactly how to do that.
yeah,
Anyone who looks at Chills Down Your Spine and sees all of the various special effects and things that we did in Premiere, DJ didn't know how to do any of that stuff. He just kind of like he would look at it and just figure it out, and that's a talent I do not have. Like I,
yeah,
I would not be able to do anything like that. So, um, but I've always had that sort of role where it's like I'm the person who's making the creative decisions. I'm not the person that does the tech. Like he handles
yeah,
tech, I handle creative decisions,
right.
and so we have an interesting dynamic that way. And I'm segueing this to you and Patrick because
Right.
I think a lot of people who watched a lot of the old Dead Lantern stuff, DJ and I are like best friends. So we're like thick as thieves on set together. So I think a lot of people might have looked at us kind of as quote unquote co-directors in a way,
Yeah.
even though we had distinct roles. I would always make fun of him, like, no, I'm going to change your framing of your shot here, DJ. It's bad. It's bad. But you
Yeah.
and Patrick have a kind of a different dynamic. You guys are actually going in this sort of like 50-50 going in, sort of making creative decisions and things of that nature. So take me to the first night of filming Pigface 2. How did you and Patrick sort of go about deciding how you're going to handle sort of like who's in charge of this motley band of actors and crew members that you had assembled?
I had, leading up to night one, had multiple meetings with Patrick about how we were just going to go about kind of coexisting, because I asked him a few months back if he wanted to co-direct this with me, because if it, I'm going to go back just a touch. Patrick started working with us back in 2015 when we did Emily, and then the next year after that, I was supposed to direct Love Bites that Tony Crumpton wrote. And instead of me doing it, I asked Patrick to do it, because Patrick's a stage director. And I was like, the only difference really is just adding a camera, really, is all you're really doing. And I knew that he was really great at just being a director. He just has a brain and a mind for it. And uh, so this time around, I had met with Patrick a couple times, and I asked him to kind of sort of take more of the reins for this one. Anyway, I was like, I'll call it co-directing, but like at the end of the day, I'm going to have Patrick make all the calls um, and kind of lead the charge. And then the last meeting we had, um, he was like, "Well, no, I'm not going to do all of that. It's kind of a 50-50 thing." And so we just, we meet and we do something now that we never really did for other stuff. We storyboard everything. Patrick's always been a shot list person, which I've never really done. I've always just kind of had
Me
shots
neither.
in my mind of
Yep.
what I wanted to do. Um, but again, I felt like the last couple of nights of Pigface have gone smoother because there's been a list and a direction to follow. Um, and Patrick is really great with working with actors. He's an actor kind of first, and he's a good actor, and so he's really good at communicating with other actors. Which again, I'm not like the greatest at. Um, so he was always going to be the person that kind of worked with the actors. And this time around, I wanted to be more on the tech side and stand with Chance on the camera side and set up shots and do stuff like that. And I think so far that's kind of how it's worked out. Patrick works with the actors on everything. I'll do like an initial blocking, and then he'll just kind of come through and clean it up. And then I kind of try to set up shots and everything with Chance, but Patrick always makes sure to look into the frame before we shoot. So it's a 50-50 split. We're both kind of on the same page before we walk into the shooting day. So
Do you foresee there ever being a moment when you and Patrick would disagree about something? So let's say you set up the framing of a shot with Chance, and Patrick comes over and says, "No, I think this needs to be changed to something different." How would that conversation go if and when it ever happens?
I don't honestly think that because we had this last night. We had a shot that we were gonna do, and he had an idea of how to do it one way, and I had an idea on how to do it another way, and uh, we'll just shoot it both ways. That's pretty much what we'll go about doing. Last night, ultimately, the shot that I wanted to do, we just did that shot. But we've definitely done it in the past where we go, "Hey, I want to try it this way. I want to try it this way. So we'll just do it both ways and see which one works out better. So
Gotcha.
there's no
Okay.
real argument. Like I'm not going to sit there and argue with somebody. I just don't have that in me anyway. I try to be pretty chill, and I've said this from the beginning. Um, I just want to go out and have fun with my friends and shit, making movies. And if you're going to sit there and fight with somebody and argue with somebody and kind of bring the spirit down, then then I don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's an interesting thing to, if somebody's out there listening to this and are like, well, how do I deal with, because I think it's always good to have somebody you trust there with you.
Right.
And it's always good to look inward at yourself and say, well, my way is not necessarily the best way every single time, and to have a separate set of eyeballs that's
Mm-hmm.
able to see things that you're not seeing, because when you're directing a movie, you're thinking about a million things. It's
Yeah.
not just shot setups. It's something as simple as like, hey, in between takes, it is fucking 80-degree wind or 80-mile-per-hour winds,
Right.
and our actor's cold. We got to think of the little things, right? You're trying to set up a shot, like, oh shit, yeah, we got to put a robe on our actress because she's laying on the ground and we forgot about
Right.
her,
Right.
and we got to do this and we got to do that. We got to set up for the next shot. So you're always thinking about those different things. So I think it's always good for people to have that person that they trust there, and I know it's worked out really well for DJ and I, because I remember things that he misses, and
Right.
vice versa, and things of that
Um,
nature.
and I think this time around too that having Patrick around to direct with has allowed me to um, take on a role of checking in on people. And I can step away from the camera for a second. I can step away from the scene for a second and just check in on actors and crew and make sure everybody's doing okay and make sure if does anybody need anything? Does anybody and I have uh space in my head to be able to think about those things and make sure that everybody's kind of being taken care of. Um uh I don't know if you want to call that more of a I think producer is such a dumb fucking term in micro budget filmmaking, but a producer role. Um because it allows me to step away from what's going on for a second and just make sure everybody's doing okay. And honestly, just kind of a separate thing. I think everybody on set or everybody making a movie needs to have that one person on set that keeps morale and energy high. And
Yeah.
so this is my chance to say thank you to Matt for being that person because you've definitely been doing that. So
Got to keep morale high. You
that's
got
not
to
me
keep.
blowing smoke or being like anything like that. Having that person is just your movie's going to go way better if your actors are just happy and spirits are high.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, and that's a huge component of the first night of filming in particular, because if in anybody listening to this who's thinking about getting into movies, and hey, I want to do a movie, especially if you're doing a night shot, a night
yeah,
shoot,
yeah,
it's going to go, and we'll talk a little bit about the first night of Pigface too,
yeah,
but it can go till really early in the morning. And the later, odds are the people who came out there, the actors, a lot of the crew, they didn't take naps before any of this. They're jazzed, right?
yeah,
They're testosterone or whatever hormones flowing through their body is jacked up. And so they're on set, they're excited. And then what happens is people realize the real machinery of making a movie like this, and that it's slow.
yeah,
It's a slow fucking process. If you're not somebody who's holding the camera or directing or something like that, and you're gonna be like, I'm just standing around. Like, when are we gonna move? Like, what? Okay, that takes done. It's gonna take another 15 minutes to set up the next shot. What am I supposed to
yeah.
do? I'm just standing around. And so what ends up happening is people start getting, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of like more and more, not frustrated necessarily, although
Impatient.
yes, that's the
Yeah,
word. Thank you. Impatient, and that breeds frustration,
Yep.
and that breeds tiredness. And when you start combining all of these different things into an actor or a crew member, that's when corners start getting cut.
Yep.
That's when, like, well, we could do this, so let's just do one take of this, and let's move on, quick, 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 quick,
Mhm.
quick, and that filters upwards, right? So if you look at like the sort of like the crew and the cast who are not the main people in charge and doing making all these decisions, a lot of people say, well, it's a top down sort of thing. If the director's doing well, that makes everybody happy. I disagree with that. I think it's a bottom up sort of thing, because if your cast and crew are not wanting to be there,
Mhm.
that affects the director, because as a director, as you know, you see it, you notice it, and that causes you to feel bad.
Yep.
You don't want to have a lot of teams. These are your friends. You don't want them to be, to feel bad about what you're doing. You kind of feel guilty about what's going on, and that causes you as a director to make decisions you may have otherwise not
Yep.
wanted to make.
Yep.
And I know in the first night of the Grand Horror, that was me. We went way longer than I thought. I mean, I had no real clue as to how long it was going to take. I had a schedule, and once that schedule got shredded and people just kept getting down and down and down, and then I felt bad, and then you as a director get down, and it's like, where is that morale? You have to have like the cheerleader on set that's
Yep.
cracking jokes, that's walking up and engaging people when they're just standing there in the wind holding a light stand or something, and they've been
Yeah.
standing there for 5-10 minutes and no one's talked to them. They're miserable. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be doing it. You got to have that person that goes up to them, hey, what's up? You're doing an excellent job. Keep it up.
Yep.
We're almost done. We only have this many shots left. Blah 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 blah. Here, take a cookie. Something like that. You
Yeah.
got to have that person. So, yeah, in the first couple nights of Pigface, man, it's been cold.
Yeah.
Let's segue to the first night of Pigface 2.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
So tell me about how you felt when you woke up that morning. Right, it's a night shoot, so you knew that was
Yeah.
coming. How much different did you feel on the first night of Pigface 2 when you woke up as opposed to the first Pigface?
Well, I got woken up that morning by my phone just blowing up from multiple people about how bad the wind was gonna be that night. And I was like, oh my god, I can't. We have like our schedule right now that we've made is so terribly tight that there's no way to move to a different day. And we live in Nebraska, so it could be windy this week and next week, and then the next week it could fucking snow. And so you can sit there and you can cancel for something, but the next week and the next week you might be equally as fucked, and now you're 3 weeks behind. So
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been like, hey guys, I know it's gonna be windy. Let's just wait till another day to shoot this, but I couldn't. And I know that people get annoyed with me because I won't just say, "Oh yeah, let's just not do it." I just don't want to do that. Um, but I woke up really like stressed out that day because I had a lot to do that day. I was up early and I was out running errands for the shoot until I showed up on set. Um, so where everybody else kind of took a nap and everything, because you all are smart and I'm stupid. I had already been, working for 10 hours before we got on set to film. And I was jazzed about it though. Like I was like, if I didn't have the energy to do that stuff, I just would have sat home and took a nap and hung out and watched TV or whatever. But I was like super jazzed on night one. I knew that night we had a really cool effect we were gonna do. There was things that I was like looking forward to. So it was easy to just be running all day long. And I hadn't gotten a chance to. It was cool to revisit a character that I hadn't, you know, seen in 2 years, and that was Jesse in the Pigface makeup. So, um,
I think it's underrated, but people don't understand is, especially on day one, whether it's, in the morning, if you're shooting a day shoot, maybe or afternoon, or in this case at night, the principal individuals behind the film are doing a shit ton of last minute crap because you're going around and doing everything, trying to have everything perfect. Was people like me, I'm like, I don't have any responsibility. I'm just going to take a nap. So because I've been through this a million times. I know how long this is going to take. I know it's going to go deep, deep into the night, and I'm like,
yep,
I'm going to get exhausted. I'm getting too old for this shit in a lot of ways.
yep,
and so I'm like, I have to be able to put my body. When I was 20, I could go fucking forever.
yep,
I could go 2 days straight with that. Even back when I was doing some of the shorts on Chills Down Your Spine, I know when
yep,
we shot the Devil's Corkscrew,
yeah,
I didn't sleep the entire weekend, and no one could believe it. And I went from basically Friday morning till Sunday night with no sleep whatsoever. I just stayed awake the entire time. I can't do that shit anymore. So you learn to sort of prepare yourself as you
yeah,
go along. But yeah, the principles behind the film, while the actors are just kind of, hey, okay, I'm going to go have some lunch and I'll show up on set, at my call time, whatever. Everybody else is frantically trying to make sure everything is perfect,
right.
knowing full well that it won't go perfectly.
Right, and I did, and I wasn't saying that to, come down on anybody. Everybody was smart. Even my wife was like, "Are
Oh,
you
sure.
gonna take a nap before you do this shit?" And I was like, "I don't got time to take a nap. Like, I just don't have time." And
Sleep when you're dead.
and I remember talking to you. I think after that shoot about when you guys had chills down your spine and how you guys shot like a week straight, and you guys shot late into the night. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know how the fuck you do this. Like, I don't know how you did it for a week. I did it one night, and I was dead. Sunday, I was dead.
When
Uh,
I when I'm in the director's chair, that takes, like, I don't know. I can't really explain what it is. Like, if I'm a crew member, like I've crewed now on 2 nights on Pigface 2,
yeah.
and that first night, by 5 o'clock in the morning is essentially when we got out of there, and I
Hmm.
was just like dead. I was like,
Yep.
oh my gosh. But yesterday, Pigface night 2,
Yeah.
I was wired. I came home, watched Halloween Kills afterwards. But in that case, what I kind of look at is like that first night of Pigface, I wasn't really doing anything but just behind the scenes. So I was just wandering around. I was filming things, interviewing people, and talking to
Right.
stuff. But on Pigface night 2, I
Yeah.
actually was doing stuff. It was like, hey Matt, can you hold this light stand? Can you hold the shot list and cross things off and pay attention to this and pay attention to that and help out with this? So I actually was doing something.
Right.
And when I'm doing something, like when I'm directing, I am like completely, like, I never get tired as long as I'm doing something. It's when I'm just kind of standing around and waiting for stuff to happen that I start getting really, really tired. So as long as
Right.
I'm engaged with whatever I'm doing, I'm good.
Yeah. So night one for Pigface, it was cool because I knew, um, we were starting with some cool effects. We were starting with that was the thing too was I think the opening of Pigface 2 um is one of my favorite opening scenes I've ever written. I just think it's fucking funny. I think some of the suggestions that were given to change some things are fucking funny. And I was like, if this goes well, it's gonna be fucking really just funny. If it goes bad, then I'll blame somebody else. But um some of the stuff I had seen, I had seen some stuff put together. Um it Anthony and Brooklyn were actors that were super funny and just high energy anyway. Like Brooklyn was crazy. with the energy and the shit she was doing.
Yeah.
Um, and Anthony went over the top on a lot of things, which was great. Because you never know if you're going to get an actor that's like afraid to just go too far and be pulled back. Um, and Anthony went as far as we wanted him to go with just being just over the top with some stuff. And uh, said it was nice because once I saw the first shot and once I saw like how things were looking and how things were kind of moving, the energy kind of shifted. And you even mentioned it that night too. You're like, oh, look at like everybody's high energy until the effects are over and then everything kind of like
Yeah.
tapers off. And you weren't wrong. After we did that last effect shot, the energy kind of went down a little bit, but it was also 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and we had like a bunch of other stuff where it's kind of just Pigface,
Yeah.
I would quote unquote minor stuff. It was
Right.
nothing like, hey, cool, someone's dying. It was kind of like, oh god, well, okay, we just have to fight our way through this to get done. But
Right.
people still know, we got to lug equipment to a kind
Yep.
of another location. We got to set everything back up. That's going to take 30 to 45 minutes. Then we got to run through everything. So when people get super, and the great thing about night one of Pigface is Heather fucking pulled off the effects. They went
Yeah.
flawless with the blood and stuff. It was so cool. Everyone was
Yeah.
so happy and excited. And then it's just like, all right, we got the big thing we wanted, but like, nope, we still have all this other stuff we got to
Yeah.
shoot. And then you're like, oh god, we're gonna be here another 2 hours. And then you realize what time it is, and you're like, oh no.
Right.
Oh,
Um.
but I think everyone was a trooper though. Everybody still pulled through. Is because we were making a lot of jokes about how cold it was and how tired everybody was and how long
Yeah.
it went. But ultimately, it was worth it, right? Because you got what you wanted.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well. That as far as I know, we got what we wanted. I. We'll see when it gets. I'm always like again a little bit nervous until I see it put together, and you go, oh my god, I got to go back and do. Like I know there's some shots that we still have to go back and do. We just didn't do them that night. Um, that are quick shots. Um, but yeah, that showed up on that first day. It was um, Patrick and I had that plan of I was gonna walk through everybody through kind of a blocking rehearsal, and then I went off and did something else, and Patrick stepped in and he cleaned everything up. And I don't know if Brooklyn's been in anything else before, but she I would have never known because she was really great. And they came in dialogue all ready to go. And Patrick made that scene better than it was. And um I know Heather always comes in super nervous about effects. I know the conversations leading up to that night were nerve wracking about getting things done. I know we had tested the effect the week before when she wasn't there, and it didn't work.
Yeah, which you
So
can see on the pig making of Pigface videos.
yeah, um, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's you walk in. I think you asked me before we started like how I was feeling, and I was like, I'm just setting the bar real low. Because if it goes great, then my expectations were far exceeded, and they were. So,
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have on day one when you're filming? Like, what are the things that you find sort of most worrisome, or not even going to effects, because obviously effects are always
right,
stress inducing because you put money into them and they
right.
can go wrong. They can go completely awry, and then you're like, oh god, now there's gonna be another cost associated to this. How do I find the funds for this or that? But just in terms of like general stuff, what are you most worried about on day one on set?
Um, oh fuck. I worry about like that night because it was a night shoot. Well, I always worry about how long I'm gonna go. People ask me what time are we going to be done, and I don't give people an end time, because if I do, then I'm lying to you. Um, I worry about that. I worry about uh, making sure everything's looking good. I'm making sure I have a checklist of making sure we have everything that we need. Um, I I don't know. I worry about the list is like I worry about everything. There's just nothing. Honestly, like there's nothing I don't worry about when I walk into a day one or a day two or a day 16. Uh, we can talk about day two of Pigface, and we had something set up that fell through the day before, and
Oh yeah, talk a little bit about that because that's kind of
um,
interesting.
so last night we shot on day two. We shot what was supposed to be a simple scene where a tow truck shows up, and it's just a kill scene. And the day before we were supposed to shoot that, our tow truck guy ghosted us after multiple conversations about when we were shooting and what we were doing, and him being really excited and him saying he's going to be there, just stopped responding. And so on Friday night, I was rewriting that scene, um, and just found a pickup truck that was Heather's dad was like, I'll bring my pickup truck out, and we just rewrote it for something else, basically. Um, but yeah, that was a last minute thing, and that shit happens all the time on micro budget
Yeah,
filmmaking. You know what I
yeah.
mean? We on day one of Pigface, actor dropped out. Day two of Pigface two, um, a a a essential piece fell through, and I
Plus,
can't.
didn't you have like the original road you were going to film on? That didn't come through either. So we were.
Oh
It
yeah,
seemed, it seemed like a lot of night two of Pigface. A lot of it was sort of DIY. We're gonna figure this out.
yeah. So when I was telling you guys, hey, we're going on an adventure really quick, and I hopped in the car with Patrick. That was us going out, um, and location scouting, uh, while you guys were hanging out, because we were trying to find a. We knew we were shooting in Waverly. Um, we just didn't know where the quietest roads were in Waverly. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we knew there were a handful of roads. We had to make sure there were no farmhouses around, really. That the roads were not high trafficked. We found a couple places, um, but yeah, we just were driving around trying to find
Well,
the best spot.
literally location scouting an hour before filming.
Yeah, um,
But I think that road. I think it turned out pretty well. I mean, we had a few issues with cars speeding by,
yeah.
but I think it turned out pretty nice.
I mean, again, the stuff that just I've seen um, from last night, I got sent some stuff, and it all looks really good. And again, having two actors that were great to work with and are just like super easy to direct and everything just makes your job easier. So um,
I think the thing that I most fear on day one of any film shoot is did I like I've said this on previous shows and for anyone listening out there, it's quite possible that I bounce all the different shows. We've recorded 6 or 7 shows at this point, and I don't know what order they'll eventually all go into. So you
right.
might actually hear this one before you hear some of our earlier ones that we filmed. But on a previous show, I discussed that my talent is sort of scheduling
Mm-hmm.
and making sure everything is where it needs to be, locations, actors, all of that stuff. My greatest fear on day one of any film set is that I overlook something, or an actor like drops out suddenly,
Yep.
or oh shit, I didn't actually get this location for the times I needed to get it by, or something that's out of my control pops up.
Right.
There's some sort of emergency or something of that nature,
Right.
because I guess it's part of like the control aspect. I feel like as a director and sort of scheduler, you're kind of like, you feel like you have control over everything. Like, okay, I've contacted this person, I've scheduled this person, everyone's going to be here. I've verified with them multiple times that they're all good to go. Everything should go swell. And when suddenly something happens to throw a wrench in that, to
Hmm.
me, I panic a little bit because I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And that's kind of my biggest fear. Luckily, I don't think that's really happened on too many Dead Lantern films in the past.
Right.
I feel confident in my ability to really, because I'm a pest when it comes to communication, and especially when I'm making a movie. Like, I will
Right.
just ask someone over and over, you sure you're going to be there? You sure this time is good for you? You have no problems, no conflicts, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that's my greatest fear. But like when life throws you a curveball, you just kind of like, well, I can't shut the whole shoot down.
Yep.
What can we do? And you got to sort of brainstorm and try to figure out. And honestly, I think that's kind of a fun aspect of it as well. There's something to be said about solving a puzzle that you were not expecting to have to solve, but just solving it. I think there's great joy in that when you successfully pull it off, like you did yesterday, right? Like, we don't have a fucking location. We haven't even told the actors we have no location, no tow truck. But guess what? We're gonna figure it out. And you did it an hour. I assume that was satisfying in some way.
Like I said, saying that we didn't have a location is kind of like, I mean, it's half true. Like, we had options for locations. We just had to go drive those options and make sure that they were gonna work. You you having the worries of like scheduling and people showing up and stuff like that. I just have, and it might be one of my downfalls is I have too much faith in people, and I go with somebody told me they're gonna be there, so they're going to be there, and I just trust that that person's going to show up. Now, that's fucked me twice, but it's only fucked me twice. So, of all the movies I've made and all the actors I've worked with, I've only been fucked twice. So, I think the percentage is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes we know by this point that this is a possibility.
Yeah.
Early on in my filmmaking career, I didn't really consider it. I was like, what do you mean you're not showing up? You told me you're going to show up. But again,
Yeah.
after you've been burned a couple times, you're like, okay, always have a backup plan for the backup plan. Like
Yeah.
I said on a previous show, later on in Dead Lantern years, I always had a backup actor at the ready.
Yeah.
For really important roles, I'm like, I literally can't do anything without this person here. Well, I'm going to have a backup just in case,
Yeah.
that I know I can rely and call on. So wrapping this sort of this episode up, we've sort of covered how nervous we are, when we on that day, but we're also excited. We always schedule things that we kind of really want to see done, right?
Yeah.
Or want to get out of the way. Like, on the movie that shall not be named, we you know filmed the sex scene on the very
Yep.
first day,
Yeah.
right? Just get it out of the way, and there's gore shots, whatever it may be, to try to get the cast and crew jazzed up. And like you're doing, you can show these sorts of cool moments to the cast and crew that have yet to actually film, and that's going to jazz them up. They're like, oh,
Right.
sweet, look at this cool shit that I'm going to be a part of. It's not just like, okay, day one, here is 8 pages of dialogue around a table that we're going to do, because that's no fun.
Right.
Anybody who says dialogue, I mean, there might be certain actors that love dialogue, but generally on a micro budget film, if anyone tells you, yeah, my favorite part is when we're doing like a 10-hour day and it's just people talking to one another, they're liars.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not film to. It's not fun to shoot. It's not fun for the actors. It's just not fun at all.
Yeah.
But kicking off with something bloody and disgusting, and so tell me how you felt at the end of night one of Pigface 2. I mean, were you like, "Fuck yeah, we got this. I'm comfortable now." Yeah, I might still be nervous. There could be some stuff, curveballs thrown along the way, but hey, we're in good hands here.
Um, I was pretty jazzed up. Again, it was 5 in the morning, so you'll see on the behind the scenes of Pigface 2, if you watch that, that I look like I'm just dead. Um, and I was, but I went home really excited about all the stuff that we got and all the cool shit that went right, and um, not really thinking a ton went wrong. And again, everybody was out there cold because that's just what I do to people apparently.
We haven't even
And
talked about the cold. Do you want to talk about the cold a little bit?
we can talk about the cold. We can talk about my fucking apparent like just joy out of making people cold and making people stand in the cold. Um,
I feel like every set of yours I've ever been on, it's been bone chillingly cold.
yeah, it's I'm not it's no joke, and I don't do that to people on purpose. Like it's supposed to be nice out, and the last two shoots we've done have been windy and fucking cold. And I did that to people on Remission. I did that to a people on a couple other movies that we've made, and I just can't figure out how to make it not cold. I wish I could.
Yeah,
Um,
night one, and that's another challenge we can talk about briefly on night one or day one of your film shoot.
yeah,
If you're shooting outdoors, you can't you have no control over Mother Nature. That's
no,
another thing I should bring out as one of my big fears. Is if I'm shooting something, day one is an outdoor shoot. I'm always terrified because you have no fucking clue. The weather person might say, "Oh, it's going to be this." They have no idea. They have no clue what's actually going to happen. I know for a fact. We'll talk about Eternal Night of the Dead.
yeah,
Was a this We're going to have the cast and crew on. Josh and I are going to do kind of a show where we bring on cast and crew of previous films just to talk about their experiences on it. So it's not just Josh and I talking about our perspective, but get the perspective of the actors and
yeah,
like the sound guy and the lights and stuff like that. But Eternal Night of the Dead, we were very jazzed for that. We were excited to film it, and we had one of the most epic storms I've ever been through in my life, and the entire shoot got rained out. And to me, I was so down. You have no idea because you feel like you've let everyone down, even though it's not your fault. I mean, you schedule these things so far out, and like you said, the schedules are so tight. Especially, we were shooting chills down your spine. I mean, we could not. When we first attempted to do Devil's Corkscrew, we couldn't do it. Huge storm came. That same storm flooded our entire location for the Western we were going to shoot like the following couple days later. Flooded the whole thing. We had to cancel that. And, you know, on night one, you're like, wow, this is how it's going to go. And you have to manage those sort of feelings of pain and sadness and
yeah,
remorse. And how do you do that? Like, we don't go to, at least I don't go to a therapist to be like, God damn it,
no,
put me on the couch. This is sort of what I'm going through.
yeah,
You got to deal with it. And in my case, I won't go too in depth with it, but I've been on, working on projects where I've actually had like medical problems as a result of the stress put on me by the production itself. There
mhm,
are real world tangible physiological effects that happen to people. It's not, I mean, we like to say, well, yeah, we just want to have fun. We're just having fun.
yeah,
And yeah, we do, but we're fucking stressed out all the
yeah,
time. And stress does something to a human being, right? And when you're stressed for a continual amount of time, um, it can be rough, man. It can be real
yeah.
rough.
I'm you know, every time we do a new shoot, I'm like, all right, this is the last one because I'm fat and I'm gonna like not live past 40 if I keep doing this shit. So I'm like, I'm gonna have a heart attack and die one of these times, and be like, but at least I had fun. Um, and uh, but then like it's hard to quit. It's hard. Um,
It's like cigarette smoking or something, right? People just
it's
can't quit cigarettes or whatever. It's like a drug. You're addicted to it
yeah,
because I think ultimately you're so stressed out, but on that first day or night of filming, god damn, it's fun. I mean,
yeah,
you might be stressed out. It's like, God, this is fun. Look at everything that had to happen in our lives to get all of us to this point right here, where we're we're having a girl bite off a guy's dick, we're chainsawing whatever. How did
yeah,
we get here? How did we get here? And you're around like, again. You make lifelong friends. That's another big thing about the first day of filming. So
yeah,
many times I've met, the first time I've ever worked with anybody or really interacted with them at all is the first day on set, and then I become friends with them for the rest of my life.
yeah.
So there's all these other benefits outside of the filmmaking component of it. It's the camaraderie. It's just the going through the fire, the bonding experience of standing out in the cold when the wind is just howling. And yesterday, for example, it was way colder than even the first night of
It was,
Pigface filming.
it was awful. Yeah,
It was bone chillingly cold because we were on this, dirt road at 2 in the morning, whatever, and just God, it felt like 50-mile-an-hour winds knocking light stands over
yeah,
and things of that nature. And you're sitting there, you're like, why am I doing this?
yeah.
like,
Well,
why am I doing this?
it was windy when we started shooting, and then at midnight, somebody was like, "Oh, the wind warning or whatever is in effect now." And I was like, "This wasn't the
Yeah,
fucking wind warning. It got worse. It
yeah, it
got
got
on
worse.
night one. It got better. I mean, the wind
Yeah,
eventually toned itself down, but night two, the wind just got worse. It was terrible. So, um,
yeah. So I'm hoping, we're rounding the corner of winter. I hope. So,
yeah,
I
right,
mean, we're in May now in Nebraska. I mean, surely it's got to be warmer
yeah.
at night coming up. But is there anything else that you wanna touch base on first day of filming? Anything like any last words of wisdom or thoughts to the audience?
So not really. Just if you're a first time micro budget filmmaker or whatever filmmaker you want to call yourself, surround yourself with people that you're willing to go into the shit with, and have that cheerleader on set, because it's just gonna make your not only your night one but your whole shoot just way better and a ton more fun. So that's what I've
Can you get
learned in the last 10 years, is just surround yourself with good people and have fun.
can you get me a cheerleader outfit and some pom poms for next weekend?
I don't have that in the budget, dude. Jesus Christ. I can get you a mini skirt, and you can tie one of those camp shirts into like a belly shirt knot.
Hey, there we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
But I will echo what you said. You got to surround yourself with people that you enjoy being around. That's a big thing. Because, like, if you're around people that you don't want to be around, it can just amplify a miserable experience. Because
Yeah,
there are going to be days when the shoots just go wrong. Everything goes wrong. And there will be times when you can't fix something. No amount of brain power, brainstorming of multiple people can fix some stuff. It's just kind of like we got to go with it, and you're
yeah,
gonna feel bummed out. You're gonna feel bummed out, but you got to be around people who are like good human beings.
yep,
That's important. Good human beings who are like, fuck it, this is gonna be something we're gonna laugh about 3 years down the road. Josh and I still laugh about Remission,
yeah,
the experience of making it. That was a decade ago.
yep.
So cool. So thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Once More for Safety show. We have a bunch of cool stuff planned in the future coming up here. Like I said, we're going to have a bunch of different filmmakers on. We're going to try to interview some more filmmakers. So it's not just Josh and I talking about
Yeah.
stuff. Eventually, we're going to run out of topics to talk about. So
Yeah.
we're going to have to segue out. If you have a question, comment for us, or you'd like us to cover a specific topic, we have a whole bunch of them that we will still cover. But send us an email at outpostunknown@gmail.com. You can leave a comment. Tell us how awful you think these shows are,
Yeah.
and we don't care. So expend your energy all you want. So with that, Josh, do we have anything coming up? Do you Do you have a particular idea for a show you want to do in the future?
There's a show that we still have to kind of talk out, but the show that I'm really actually looking forward to the most is the show that may go south real quick, and that is you and I building a script or a film just live right in front of people. So
yeah, with no prep, just hammering out ideas and then seeing where it goes.
That's the one I'm excited for.
That'll be real fun. We might have to do that after you're done filming Pigface, just so that we can have time to, I don't know, decompress a little bit. So thank you once again, everybody, and we will see you next week.